So Biden is out and Kamala is in. I think it behooves every conservative to admit that we are going to have a tougher fight. If Democrats can be in denial of Biden's mental state for so long, imagine the delusions they can have about Kamala. She's even a much more clever liar than Biden is. I learned this when I was re-examining the famous very fine people lie the other day and the different ways in which they deceive the public on this subject. Biden's lie is much more direct. He attempts to sustain the mythology that Trump said neo-Nazis are very fine people. To this day, it is still on his official YouTube channel.
Charlottesville, Virginia is home to the author of one of the great documents in human history. We know it by heart. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. We've heard it so often, it's almost a cliche, but it's who we are. We haven't always lived up to these ideals. Jefferson himself didn't, but we have never before walked away from them. Charlottesville is also home to a defining moment for this nation in the last few years. It was there on August of 2017 we saw Klansmen and white supremacists and neo-Nazis come out in the open. Their crazed faces, illuminated by torches, veins bulging and bearing the fangs of racism, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. And they were met by a courageous group of Americans, and a violent clash ensued. And a brave young woman lost her life. And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides? With those words, the President of the United States assigned a moral equivalence between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. And in that moment, I knew the threat to this nation was unlike any I had ever seen in my lifetime.
Biden even brought it up during the June 27th debate with Trump.
What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. They spoke to the mother, and they asked him, they said, what do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones he said, I think they're fine people on both sides. What American president would ever say, Nazis coming out of fields, carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? And this is the guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on that. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency, he's without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day it came out where it was fully debunked.
You can say what you want about Trump, but he's dead bang on this one. Snopes finally debunked this very fine people lie only about 6 days before the debate.
New controversy over some old remarks ahead of Thursday's first debate between Presidents Biden and Trump. The fact-checking site Snopes finally debunking Democrats' claims that then-President Trump in 2017 called neo-Nazis and white nationalists, quote, very fine people. This was after a deadly protest in Charlottesville, Virginia, over the removal of a Confederate statue. Snopes now labeling that claim false, writing, quote, in a news conference after the rally, Trump did say there were very fine people on both sides, referring to the protesters and the counter-protesters. He said in the same statement he wasn't talking about neo-Nazis and white nationalists, who he said should be condemned totally. Let's bring in News Nation media contributor Steve Krakauer. Steve, great to see you. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Why is Scopes finally correcting this record 7 years later?
It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden?
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows.
Kamala's lies about this subject have been much more clever and nuanced. She claimed neo-Nazis marched on the other side, then mentioned Trump said very fine people were on both sides. She did this in the debate with Mike Pence in early October of 2020 and again in late October of the same year. She never, of course, denounces the hoax or questions President Biden's heartfelt embrace of this lie.
He, on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs, and Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together.
Senator Harris.
And recognizes the
Donald Trump, who, when peaceful protesters were protesting racial injustice in Charlottesville, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side, there were neo-Nazis wearing swastikas and carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic and racial slurs. Donald Trump said there were fine people on each side.
If you watch Kamala closely in those videos, you can see she's struggling between the two realities of the lie and what she wants people to believe. Watch for more of this from her. Thanks for watching.